With the holidays starting, it's time to get festive around here. My name is Lippy, and this is the Devil's Weekly Roundup. All right, so Devils have played 3 games this past week. We're going to talk about the 3 of the games. The first game we're going to talk about here is the Detroit Red Wing game, which was a 4-0 shutout loss. There's nothing really to say much about this game except for the fact that the Devils just did not look good. This broke a 101 game streak, I believe, where the Devils have not been shut out, and they were held to 16 shots. I mean, this is a full credit to the Detroit Red Wings. They played a very good defensive game. They held the Devils to not many chances, and they shut them out. Probably might have been the worst game of the season for the Devils. They just did not look good. And, this led to there being a couple meetings with the players. And they were talking about how they had to have better starts and everything. And, they needed to be better. And it sounded like, the team was finally maybe figuring things out, finally moving forward. And then we get to a back-to-back. Now, normally back-to-backs, it's go either way. The first one was versus the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are below the Devils in the standings at the time of the recording of this by only 1 point. And the Devils lost to them 2-1. The only goal came from Alexander Holtz, which, hey, great for Holtz. Holtz has been looking really good for them. But it was just a case the Devils started slow. And they did not come out with that ferocity that we were kind of expecting after getting shut out, having player meetings, saying they need to be better, and then they kind of just came out and did the same. Both goals were because of defensive breakdowns. The first goal was, I believe, a Boone Jenner. He was left alone in front, and when you go back and look at the replay, you see Siegenthaler covering his guy, and Hamilton slid over to kind of almost give a double coverage, leaving Boone Jenner wide open in net. And then the second goal, Columbus, I'll be honest with you, I don't know all your players' names. The Columbus player got behind the defense, led to a breakaway. He scores. It's 2-1. The Devils, I will say, in the third period, came out looking like the team they were last year. They were getting shots. They were generating their chances. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they got goalied by Elvis Merzlikins. And, you're going to have games like that. The problem is, because where we are in the season, because typically, if you're in a playoff spot by American Thanksgiving, you are typically going to make the playoffs. The Devils were out of a playoff spot. But this was a week in which they could probably get back on track and get into a spot. But the problem is, they weren't. And this past week, they honestly were not looking the best. And they're still out of a playoff spot. You can have games where you get goalied. That's okay. But the problem is when you've had inconsistent play, you've lost a lot of games. I think the Devils, up until this time, had only won 1 over the past 2 weeks. And, when you get into streaks like these, you have to turn the ship around before you sink any further. And unfortunately, the Devils didn't do this, and they ended up getting goalied by the Blue Jackets and losing the first half of a back-to-back 2-1. But they looked better in the third period. So you were hoping that going into that Saturday game versus the Buffalo Sabres, they would be looking better. And yeah, safe to say they looked better. The Devils beat the Buffalo Sabres 7-2. It was Hockey Fights Cancer Night, which was, obviously a very big thing. But we also saw the return of the captain, Nico Hischier. Goals we had, Alexander Holtz started it off first thing in the game, which is really great. Good for him. Tyler Toffoli chipped in a goal. Nico Hischier scored a goal that was maybe a little questionable, led to some weird will they, won't they, with the Sabres challenging. They ended up not doing it. Andre Palat got on the score sheet. Toffoli had another goal. Mercer scored. And then Luke Hughes topped it off on the power play. I have to say, most dominant game. Obviously, when you win a game 7-2, you are dominating play. And the Devils looked like they had purpose again. Jack was doing Jack things. Nico's 200-foot game was there. It kind of almost slotted everyone back into where they need to be in the lineup. And what's going to be interesting is, what do they do when Timo comes back? Is the question that they were asking on the broadcast. Because Brendan Smith, he has his flaws. I'm not going to stand here and defend him, but the team definitely seems to want to use him in certain um, plays, certain situations. So they had him up on fourth line wing right now, which, okay, it's whatever. He's going to do whatever he needs to do. But when Timo comes back, who comes out of the lineup? Because right now, everyone's playing pretty good. Tierney's playing pretty decently. Bastian's playing good. McLeod's playing good. Holtz is playing great. Someone's going to have to come out of the lineup. And in my mind, Brendan Smith is probably that person, because Luke Hughes with Colin Miller has looked great. Kevin Ball and John Marino are starting to find their footing. They look a lot better. And then Siegenthaler and Hamilton are looking better. So you don't really want to mess with the D pairings. And you really don't want to mess with the forward lines. Brendan Smith is probably going to be the odd man out. And they're just going to have to figure things out from there. I guess if we had to give a bad note from this game is, the Devils held Buffalo to 12 shots. And Vitek was only able to, they held him to 11 shots. And Vitek saved 9 of them. Which obviously, when you're only facing 12 shots, you're getting a lot of help. That's great. So to see Vitek give up 2 goals on limited shots, not the thing you want to see. Vitek is still maybe not looking the best. And that probably might be where the Devils' biggest weakness is right now, is they do not have consistency in net. And I don't know what you do in this situation, because you're still out of the playoffs. You don't want to trade for a goalie, give up assets, and then potentially miss the playoffs, and then you gave up assets that you didn't really need to give up. But then also at the same time, you have to find consistency in net. So I feel like the approach, and this is just from a fan's perspective, is Vitek and Schmid, anyone else in the AHL, who cares? Nico Dawes, whatever. You have a pot of spaghetti, you got to throw it on the wall, and you got to see what sticks. Because the only way the Devils are going to get back into the playoffs is finding consistency with what they have. I don't think they need to make a major move to try and improve things. But obviously, as we head into December, you have to get back into the playoffs. The Devils are capable of doing it. They have a lot of work to do. It's not going to be easy like it was last year. But this group has the potential to do it. They have the ability to do it. And overall, like I said, it started out very bad. I was expecting to record a very depressing episode this week, and then the Buffalo game looked really good. So now the question is, will they carry that into next week? And as we look into next week, they have 2 divisional games where they will be playing the New York Islanders at home. Then they have the Philadelphia Flyers away, and then they close out the week on Friday at home versus the San Jose Sharks, who just got their 4th win. I said last week, these 3 games are very winnable. Good chance for the Devils to get back on track. These next 3 games are winnable and should hopefully get the Devils back on track. Overall, it wasn't the best November. Last November obviously was very great. The Devils, I think, only lost once or twice. I think it might have been flipped this year. They only won twice this month. So as we head into December, December is going to have to be a big month for the Devils, especially if they want to get back into the playoff race. And as we look into it, they have the Western Canada Road Show coming on, which has historically not been the best for the Devils. So hopefully they can be consistent with that. But then they have some good winnable games. They'll be facing the Ducks. They have the Flyers again. They have the Red Wings again. They have the Blue Jackets, the Senators. Like, those are games they should be winning. And then they have to eke out wins versus good teams. They have the Oilers a couple of times. They have the Bruins a couple of times. It's going to be a test. And I think this will probably be the line to see whether or not the Devils will make changes. Will be where we are at the end of December. I think if the Devils are in a playoff spot in December, they kind of just ride it out and then get to the trade deadline and make the improvements where they need to. I think if they're still out of the playoffs, maybe come mid-December and not looking like they're trending in the right direction, that's when I can see changes coming. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are below if you'd like to. You can follow me on my social medias, and they are right here. I will say, if you are on TikTok, I kind of do 1 minute bits there. Yeah, that's the word I want to go with. I do 1 minute bit videos where basically I talk about a subject, sort of kind of like a mini Devil's Daily recap. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, that's really great. Instagram is just a social I have if you want to follow me there. But really, if you want to see more of my face, if you want to engage more with the content that I'm making, watch me every Sunday here with the Devil's Weekly Roundup. Or if you want to see me daily, I'm on TikTok. So yeah, that's going to be it. My name is Lippy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.